I'm very pleased to welcome my friend Will Johnson here today. He's going to tell you all about himself, and we're going to have a great, lively discussion today. Welcome to Freedom Talk. All right, the man, the myth, the legend. You're here. It's so good to see you.
Glad to be here.
I enjoy your show. I don't always get to watch it. You know how we're inundated with things, but I really appreciate the stands you've taken. You've had me on before. I appreciate that greatly. Do you want to just tell our viewers everything you're doing? And it might take a half an hour to get to all of
it. Well, here lately, I've been doing my own show. I have my show on Lindale TV that I do, and then of course I have a different show that I do on the socialist media platforms in the evening. My show on Lindale TV is Let's Talk About It with Will Johnson.
That's right.
And yeah, the one on the socialist media platforms, that one's called Reality Check, because I'm, and they don't like
they need that, don't they?
Oh, they need it. They need the reality check. So I do that one then, and then I also have a podcast that I do Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Central. I do that as well. And I just actually started that this week, and it's actually starting to grow some decent numbers. I'm pretty excited about it.
Oh, that's
and
excellent.
and of course, my website, uniteamericafirst.com, and it's really been a really kind of like fun but exciting and scary battle, because they hate someone like me saying what I'm saying, so they want to crush me as much as possible.
Yeah. What do you mean, someone like you saying what you're saying?
Because I'm a free-thinking American. That's all it needs to be. And it doesn't matter who you are. If you just have a free-thinking American and you don't believe the lies, they want to crush you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've been on your show, and you've talked about some of the things that I've endured here and fought back. And, I'm finding, Will, is I think you probably know who Ian Smith is out there in New Jersey. He was just exonerated. He was running for Congress out there right before the midterms. He was pulled over and accused of drunk driving. I'm glad to say he was found innocent, and that's a vindication for him. But one thing I'm finding is that so many of these people who stood up, who've held the line, especially if they were outspoken from the beginning, a lot of them are in trials right now. I'm in two. A lot of them are being persecuted. I mean, the left is going absolutely nuts trying to take these people down. How much of that kind of thing have you got? Maybe not necessarily trials, but what kind of pushback, negative comments, threats, that kind of thing? What's that like in your world?
Oh my goodness, I get threats a lot. I get, when I used to live in California, I remember one threat I got. I remember one threat I got from this guy that lived in Oakland. And he told me to come to Oakland so he can put me out of my misery. Right. I mean, open threat. And I've had other people threaten my life because I'm not talking or thinking the way they want me to think. And you know what's really amazing is that I haven't physically done anything to these people. I've only expressed how I feel and how I see things. So because I expressed that, they've gone out of their way to want to harm me. And it's the same thing. They want to harm you physically. They want to harm you financially.
Yes,
they want to harm you mentally. Any kind of way that they can find that they can harm you. And it's basically because of the way you think and what you believe in. And it's no different than what they did during Nazi Germany. When they found out that you were against the Nazis, then they wanted to shun you. They wanted to excommunicate you from society. And we saw it, and we're seeing it happen today.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that the Nazis were not some right-wing good old boys. They were socialists, and they were
100%.
I like to think of them as a rival gang to the communists, but with some similar ideas. And of course, Hitler and Stalin were allies for a time until Germany invaded Russia or the Soviet Union.
Yeah, and if they were alive today, I would say, probably the Biden regime would be allies. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm sure you have too, but I've talked to people who came out of communist countries. Even a wonderful woman, she wrote a book called Born to War, and she just recently passed away, but she was a child in Nazi Germany, and then she experienced the Berlin airlift when the Soviets came in, and she said this is really what it was like in the early days. And I'll tell you something, Will, I put out that message on her behalf and some others, and I got these comments like, oh, you're anti-Semitic. Are you saying that what we're going through is as bad as the Holocaust? I never said anything like that. I said, this is reminiscent of what things were like in the early days, and we better put the brakes on. Have you had people comment on that as well?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've openly said it. I said they're trying to repeat what they did, because look how they demonize parents for at these school boards. I mean, you know, for firsthand, look how they demonize parents. I mean, yeah, right. I mean, look how they
somewhere up near the top of the FBI watch
yeah,
list.
exactly. How they demonize for parents for wanting to stick up for their children. Look how they demonize half the country, talking about mega Republicans, as domestic terrorists are trying to label it. And they know it's not true. They're just doing the exact same thing. They're repeating history, what they did in the 1930s, 1940s. They're repeating history. And these people are so uninformed that they're going along with it. They think they have to do this. And there, you know what? There's been actual videos and actual leftists on these progressive communist mainstream media outlets where they've actually said that the MAGA Republicans should be removed from society until they can be re-indoctrinated. They've actually said that. It's no different.
We've seen that over and over and over again. That was the Soviet gulags, you know.
Yes.
And you know, I was mentioning to someone earlier today, you know, Hitler is the focus because he killed 6 million people in concentration camps. You know, Stalin killed up to, you know, the top estimate is 63 million of his own people. I mean, he was 10 times worse in that sense than Hitler. And I feel this desperation for people to understand. Look, communism has this siren song, but it is no bueno. It's a really, really bad thing. And I'm working for the Epic Times now with people, you know, the founders and much of the staff came here from China to escape that, and they know, and they say, look, I didn't move here for this to come into the U.S.
I mean, they were like, they fled from that, right? For the most part. And they came to a country to where they have their freedoms, and now they see their freedoms slowly being withdrawn from them. And you know, a lot of us as Americans that have always been accustomed to these freedoms, and some of us think that the freedom should go away because of, oh my goodness, the bad MAGA Republicans. Really? So they're going to take away our freedoms. But what they don't realize is that after they're done coming after us, they're next.
Yeah, that's very true. And you know, I've experienced that in a very real way. You know, I come from a Celtic heritage, and my forefathers would strip naked, paint themselves blue, and run screaming into battle. I'm not quite that civilized. No, I'm just kidding. But no, actually, you know, I'm a professional. I don't advocate for violence. I protect my family. I protect my community. But you know, I know you and I are going to talk about this, but I'm in the middle of what's turned into a 2-day trial, and all I was arrested for was misdemeanor 3 trespassing, which is literally less serious than loitering or jaywalking. And yet the media portrayed this as if I had committed some great felonies in these 2 other poor dads. And all I did was go to a school to protect a school dad. And I sat there. Fortunately, we have video of 100% of it. But, you know, still, like my lawyer said, you know, the city here and the school board, they're still trying to treat this like it's a felony. But they admitted, look, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't try to kidnap a teacher, you didn't even take a step toward anyone. So I'm sitting there thinking, then why the hell am I here? It's because I was outspoken and a critic of how these CUFID, let's just say, so I don't get, hopefully I can get away with saying that.
You spoke up against the communists.
And
that's basically what it comes down to.
Look, the statistics are there, and I have real life examples from our community of kids committing suicide over this stuff, getting depressed. I mean, even the mainstream's coming out with this now. Like the lockdown strategies were tragic. So instead of going forward and saying, look, you know, they were being paid money to do this, but instead of coming forward and saying, look, you know, let's talk about this, you know, maybe we could have done this differently. We're all learning as we go. What they did is they demonized parents. And we had a school board meeting where parents had been fed up. They had it. Over 200 parents showed up to this board meeting, including a student. And I just put his comments in a slide. He said, look, I go to this high school. One of my friends committed suicide. Y'all are killing my classmates. He wanted to come and speak. What do? They shut down the meeting, treated the parents like they were hostile. The superintendent of schools and others went out and demonized the parents, said, oh, they had guns. Well, a couple guys showed up in the parking lot. It's an open carry state, I guess you call it. They probably shouldn't have had them. It was dumb, but there's nothing posted. But the point is, they weren't there to be violent. They were there to be heard. And the school district, instead of saying, hey, we'll listen to you, we'll work together with you, they demonized those parents. It's funny because I went there and I didn't get up to speak. I didn't say anything, but somehow they focused on me.
They lumped you
in. Business owners speaking out. Yeah. So I literally, I have the sheriff's report from that time, and I have to give kudos to our sheriff's officers because they handled it fantastically. They didn't take sides. They said, look, we're not here to arrest anybody. We're just here to keep the peace. But I have the police records that show that the PR gal from the school district said, hey, Kelly Walker's coming. He's the owner of this coffee house, and he's just coming there to get attention, and he wants to be arrested, and he just wants to humiliate us. And I'm like, do you think he had a preconceived bias? And now these people are taking me to court. And I tell you, it's a clown show there.
I think part of the reason why they do that is because they want to set an example for any parents that's going to stand up for their children. Will do this to you. So if you're a parent and you have actual concerns for your child, be it, trying to force them to wear something or force them to try to take puberty blockers, to change their sex. And if you're a parent and you decide to come up and say something against that, then we will come after you with the full force of the city, the local state government. And that is the ultimate form of tyranny. You have the state. You have the state coming after parents because parents are wanting to take care of their children. What? This is not the United States of America. This is what communism looks like.
And I'll tell you, it is. And one of the dads went before a judge here locally on these, it was these protective orders that the school took out on him. Like, you can't go on the campus, this kind of thing. And I have a video of this. The judge threw it out and he reprimanded the school district and the principal. He said, look, these guys, I watched the whole video. They didn't do anything hostile. They disagreed with you, and they get to do that. That's your job. And he said, you don't get to tell them how to disagree. I'm dismissing the orders, but even with that, each one of us has to go for a trial. And I'll tell you, they're wasting taxpayer money.
Yep.
With the prosecutors. All these school board people take the day off, and they've not only gone to the trial, they went to all the, that school principal went to all the preliminary scheduling hearings. And my lawyer said, nobody does that. So it's very much a vendetta. But I'll tell you something, Will, and I don't mean to be full of bravado, but they're not going to break me. They're not going to stop me. My friend Ian Smith, he's not going to be stopped. And man, they've thrown everything at that guy. But, there are some of us, and you're one of them, who have stood tall and stood strong. We're not going to be intimidated. And I'll tell you something, you have to get to a point, and I hope if you're listening to this, break out of your lethargy, get off your butt, get involved. You have to come to the point where you're willing to lay everything down for your country, for your kids, for their future. If you're not 100% committed, get out of the way.
I'm terrified of not doing something. And the reason why we're at this point right now is because good men and women in the past said nothing when they saw this coming. They did nothing when they saw this coming. And now here we are saying what they should have been saying 20, 30 years ago when this stupid stuff started coming to the surface. They should have said something then. It should have never gotten to this point, especially when it comes to our children. It should have never ever gotten to this point. We are the parents of the children. The government is not the parent. The government is not the God. The government is there for you and I, supposedly. So when we have local states, we have officials that's basically going above and beyond what they think the law is. The government is supposed to come in and say, no, you are in the wrong. They should have their freedom of speech. They should be able to say and disagree. Like the judge said, they should be able to disagree with you all day. That is that is just like tyranny. You can't disagree with us. Are they working for China? I mean, really, what's going on here? Are they working for China? Because that's what happens if you speak out against the government. What happens to you? They disappear you.
And let me tell you something. I went to junior high or middle school in Eugene, Oregon. I went to high school in Minneapolis, Minnesota. These aren't exactly bastions of conservatism, but even in those places, our teachers told us, look, you know, and these were the true liberals, right? The classic liberals. And many of those have come over and said, look, the Democratic Party's gone way too left for me. I believe in freedom of speech, all those things. But they used to say, you know, not only is freedom of speech a fundamental right, but it's smart, because if you have an extremist group, they march down Main Street, it kind of gets out of their system. They blow their steam off and it takes away their power. But when you try to stop these extremists, and look, extremists, come on, don't yank my chain. It's not school parents. It's not people who want to vote for Donald Trump.
Right.
It's just not there. But it just diffuses it. And when you try to hold people back and suppress them, yeah, some people are going to bow their heads like sheep, but other people, man, it's just gonna fire them up, you know. And there's a righteous indignation side to this.
Yeah.
And the thing about, you know, our side, if you want to call it that, is we don't tend toward violence. There's always a nut job here or there, but we're not violent people. The left has shown very much.
I mean,
otherwise, I haven't threatened to kill anybody. That's been done to me so many times.
Yeah, same here. But just like, you know, the Summer of Love, you know, in 2020, we saw all the violence that was taking place. They don't ever want to address that. Even Kamala Harris saying that she would bail out these people that was committing these crimes. She even said it herself during that time. And then you have multiple communist talk host shows like Don Lemon on CNN was even encouraging people to do the same thing, to go out and do this terrible stuff. But they don't ever want to talk about that. They talk about mega Republicans as if we're going around the country just being real disruptive. There's no videos on it, but I can show you videos all day long of these leftists destroying stuff and doing this horrible stuff. It was over $1 billion of insurance policies from that time, but they want to act like we're the violent ones. And you know what? We're violent because we disagree. And you're right. We don't go out. I've never advocated for violence. I'll never say, oh, this person said XYZ, we need to do something to them. I've never said that. And I've actually had people send me emails upset with me because I don't want to be violent. And I'm pretty sure these are leftists that's doing this because they need us to be violent. So then they can turn around and say, see, look, these conservatives, they are violent. See, look, but they don't have that. So they make it up and they lie. We see it. I lost audio on you. I can't hear you.
Oh, I accidentally muted my microphone. I was going to say, hey, did you do that to me? Am I talking too much? No, but I'm not going to confirm or deny that I have direct experience with this, but the left is like a bad ex-wife. They're going to push you, provoke you, try to look, innocent. And then the moment you react, you're violent. You're terrible. You're horrible.
My buddy Ben Bergquam, he was at a Trump rally at one point, and I think it was actually in Arizona, and he was on stage, and something happened to where one of the leftist media outlets end up bumping into him and pushing him, and then they put charges against him. He go, "What are you talking about? You pushed me. I didn't even touch you." And they tried to bring charges up against him. It was unbelievable. But see, that's how they are. That's how they do. They don't have any issues with lying about, whatever it is. And they believe lying is okay to get their agenda.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I'll tell you some of the buffoonery in this kangaroo court I'm in. My lawyer asked, did Mr. Walker attempt to arrest the principal? No. Did he, he went through all these things. Did he take a threatening step toward her? No. Did he raise his voice? No. And then the prosecutor gets up and the principal's doing this Jussie Smollett teary thing. And he says, Ms. Fargo, did you feel like you could have been kidnapped?
Oh my goodness.
And then they have the office manager or something up there. And my lawyer says, you watch the video. Nobody's panicking. Nothing happened.
Did you feel like?
Yeah. Did you feel like you could have been kidnapped? And then the office manager says, yeah, I know she looked calm on the outside, but I've known her for years, and I know she was terrified. It's like,
Oh my
okay, look,
goodness.
they didn't even call the on-site school security. They didn't lock down the school. Nothing. We
And
were there disagreeing, and we're big, scary men, and that's the sum of it. So our family's been dragged through this whole thing. We've had to try to raise some money for legal fees. It's a joke, and I'll tell you, it's very, very stressful. But I'll tell you something that I told my lawyer the other day. I said, I'm glad they're targeting me. I said, I know that sounds strange, but if they're targeting me, they're leaving other people alone, and I can handle it. And in fact, I was just interviewing Eli Crane. He's running for Congress out here. He's a former Navy SEAL. And he was talking about the war on men. And I said, yeah, it's terrible. It's hard. I've experienced a whole lot of discrimination on the fact that I'm a male and a father, and I was a single father for 3 years.
And you're a white male on top of that. I mean, come on, and you're straight. Yeah. I mean, you got all the strikes against you.
I am on the intersectional low rung of the totem pole.
You got all the strikes against you.
Yeah, I might as well just commit seppuku or whatever it's called. Man, but I said, but here's the thing, Eli. There is a war on men, but we're men and we can take it. So I want to encourage you, men, young people watching this. Be a man. Don't be put off by this toxic masculinity crap, because a real man is tough and tender, and a real man is a delight to the world. And I don't post on as much as I should, but I have a blog called Tonic Masculinity, not toxic, but tonic. And the whole idea is that a real man, a good man, is like the tonic that the world needs to heal. Yeah. And I have to say, I'm a Christian. I believe in God. I think
there's another negative.
I know. So I'm just digging my hole deeper. I don't like cats, so but where was I going with this? You made me lose my train of thought.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My train gets derailed sometimes.
Well, it's just, I mean, I think basically, from what I'm getting, basically is that they want to demonize you on everything that they can.
Yeah.
And the Democrats have done this from day, ever since they've been created as a party. And think about this. When it was during the time of slavery, the Democrats, they thought black people grew tails at midnight, and they demonized black people, saying you don't want black men around white women, talking about men. And now today, it's the same denominator, the Democrat Party, now saying that white men are the worst things to society. It's the same group. They just changed the color. Instead of wearing white hoods, now they wear black hoods, and they call themselves Antifa.
I'm the devil.
Right?
Right. Oh, man, I tell you, and it's so weird, because if you say, I have friends of all colors, oh, that's a racist statement. I went and taught as a volunteer in Sri Lanka for a year, and people in Sri Lanka, some are lighter than you, some are, they make you look like you're white. They're so dark. And we had Muslim and Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, you name it, and we all got along together.
Yeah.
And we didn't think in those terms. I think with a lot of my friends, we don't really take note of color of skin any more than color of eyes. Oh, you have blue eyes. It's obvious, but I live in the Southwest here. It's very, I hate the word diverse, but it is, at least on the outward.
But the only time that is interjected into society is because you have leftists. I went to a Charlie Kirk event just the other day. Charlie Kirk event, and he brought up saying that he's, the best way to get rid of the racism is to stop talking about it. Well, the only problem, to an extent, I agree, but the only problem with that is if we don't address what they're pushing onto us, it gives them confirmation that it's okay to say that we have this racial division when it's not even true. So we can't be silent about it. That's how we got to this point. Is keep happening. They keep saying that white men are the biggest problem in the country. MAGA supporters, Christian nationalists, racists. They're talking about all these white nationalists, and I'm like, what are they talking about? They're making it up. And what it is, they mouth off these words. They just mouth them off with no proof, no evidence of any of it. They just say it, and you have to believe it. And if you disagree, we're gonna crush you.
if you disagree, you're one of them. One of them.
Exactly. Oh, you're one of them. Yeah.
Well, and it's invidious. I mean, the same party that was the party of segregation, Jim Crow laws, everything else, they're getting segregation now. But I say it's like you're getting segregation plus you're getting this social credit. Like, oh yeah, we want this ethnic group to have their space, and whites can't go there.
I mean, look how they're doing at some of these universities now. They have an all-black dormitory, and white people can't go in there. And then if there's someone white goes in there, they have to announce that, hey, we got a white person in the building now. What? Can you imagine if the roles were reversed? I mean, my goodness, they'll burn the entire university down. They'll burn it down.
You and I
but
both
it's
know
okay for this. I mean, this is despicable.
Not Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream.
No,
this
is
the antithesis of what he talked about. And I think, honestly, what do you think they'd call Martin Luther King Jr. if he were alive today?
Oh, they would hate him. They would hate him. He was a Republican then. He was a Republican. They would hate him. I mean, and they try to adopt it with Martin Luther King, and it's really amazing. They tried to adopt Martin Luther King, saying that they're fighting for what Martin Luther King was fighting for equal rights and et cetera, right? But no, they're not. No, they're not for equal, because it's their way, no way, or the highway.
He'd be disgusted, and
oh yeah,
I get tired of it, because I'm more than this incredibly gorgeous outward package, very manly. My skin color only says so much about me. And, I've been called anti-Semitic. Well, my great-grandfather was named Israel. I have a Star of David necklace. I have a book here, History of the Jews. I'm not like a practicing Jew, but I may have some Jewish heritage there. I greet my Muslim friends, salam alaikum, I'm not an adherent to the Muslim religion, but I have, I taught Muslim kids. I've had Muslim neighbors. I've never had a bad experience.
I guess my biggest thing is why does any of it matter? Right? It shouldn't matter. But they put all this emphasis on it to try to use it as a part of division, and none of it should matter. Right? When I wake up in the morning, I don't wake up feeling like a color. I wake up feeling like Will Johnson, and I don't know how to wake up feeling like purple or green or blue or yellow or any of that.
I just noticed something. You're melanin enhanced. I just
but no, I don't. But that's what I'm saying. I don't wake up feeling like that. And when I go throughout my day, I don't even know what it feels like to be a color. I know what it feels like for liberals to discriminate against me, and they discriminate against me for the most part, not simply because of my complexion, but because of the way I think. See, as a black person, you're supposed to think a certain way. You're supposed to think the way they want you to think. But then when you don't, and when you don't, then you're a threat. Then you're a problem.
You have a mind. I have a mind. What we really are is what's going on the inside. It's mental. It's spiritual. I speak fluent Spanish. It's my second language. I love history. I love culture. I love language. It's been one of my goals. I'm 53 now. I'll probably never achieve it, but I've wanted to learn like basic phrases in like 20 languages. So I see somebody and I recognize, they're speaking Farsi. They're from Iran. I can come up and greet them. Yeah. But I can hardly remember the names of my 5 children anymore. So it might be the impossible dream. But the point I'm making is, look, I want to tell you something. And I almost forgot about this, but this was years ago. I moved from New Mexico out to Oregon. I kind of grew up in Oregon part of those years. Debatable whether I grew up, but I came out of a grocery store and there's this Hispanic guy there, kind of the lowrider type. And he says, "Hey, you want something?" And I thought he was like, I didn't know what he was. No, I'm good. And he says, don't you turn away from me, you SOB, or whatever he called me. And I look and he's got a gun on me. He's got a handgun on me. And I think I was like in my 20s at the time. And I was like, holy crap. And he thought just because my friend and I were white, that we were some, I don't know, I've never been bald, but like skinheads or something, some sort of extremist group. And And then I busted out in Spanish with him. And then at the time, I had a really nice show quality Jeep, these things you can afford when you're single. And all of a sudden, he wanted to be my friend. And like being able to speak Spanish might have saved my life I didn't say a word to him. I didn't even notice him at first. We'd been driving all day. And so, I've had some experiences that I think would be equivalent to some of the things that Black people experienced in the
Oh,
60s.
well, you know what? I would say everyone has. I would say everyone has experienced some racism at some point in their lifetime, and they put that narrative out there that Black people can't be racist, which is a total lie. I mean, I've experienced racism from both Black and white people, and Asian people, and Hispanic people. I've experienced racism from Asian people all across the spectrum.
Hold on, Will.
I've experienced it.
I find that statement to be really racist. Oh, wait a minute. Word.
But I've experienced all of it. And one thing, when I used to consider myself a Democrat when I lived in Arkansas, and I moved to California, and I would have conversations with people online as a Democrat, they would always say, when I would have conversations with conservatives, Republicans, they would always say, "Look, dude, you're confused. You don't understand." They never called me despicable, racist, hateful names. But once I became a conservative, oh my goodness, the left, there was white liberals that were calling me the N-word and calling me just despicable names, just horrible names. And then what was most interesting is that when these white liberals were calling me these despicable names, you would find Black liberals joining in with the white liberals calling me the same names. They see the white liberals saying it, they would join them and attacking me. So that's it was a complete eye opener then, where all the racism is coming from, just like today. All the racism exists on the left, and you can't even, and it's all out in the open. And they try to act like, well, no, we're not racist, we're inclusive. No, you Republicans are racist. Really? But y'all are doing the racist stuff. Y'all don't want some, and here's another thing. They have on these socialist media platforms, they have the Black voice and Black equality and just Black this and Black that. And YouTube had a program to where they were trying to get Black people to join this program to do their channels and stuff like that, and you have to apply for it. Rejected. I was rejected because I didn't think the right type of Blackness.
Yeah.
I mean, so how is that not discriminating?
No, absolutely. It's gotten to the point of ridiculousness. But I'll tell you something. Well, I have some hope, and we had this coffee shop for a while that was constantly being attacked. But I had one example of many. These two Black women came in, beautiful women, and I asked, "Are you sisters?" They said, "No, she's my fiance." And then as we were talking, I realized, oh, they follow us on Instagram. I follow them, so we're talking. This guy comes in. He's just a sweet guy, but he looks like Mr. Clean, not quite as tall, and got tattoos and stuff. If there was ever a poster boy for the Aryan nations, he'd look like that, but he's not like that at all, right? So I've got Mr. Clean over here talking to two Black lesbians from Seattle, and me, who knows what the heck I am, but but they told me we were in Chaz or Chop. We're chanting BLM, beating the drums and everything. And then we just saw it, and it's like we woke up. We realized this is Marxist. This is hateful. And I'll tell you, man, Black lesbian couple from Seattle, I think they might be more conservative than me, and I still keep in touch with the one gal who I know a little better than the other. But I just thought that was a beautiful moment. I don't care about their personal choices or the color of their skin, but I felt such love. And one day I was in the shop, and this young couple comes in, white kids. They kind of had a almost like a semi hippie look. You could tell they were on a certain, maybe more on that liberal side. But man, we had such a great talk. I shot a video of it just impromptu on the iPhone. But she said, my dad was always conservative. I thought he was nuts. And again, they just kind of woke up, and they found themselves in Silver City, New Mexico, and they're the odd men out because all their old friends were like, mask up, shut up, do this, do that.
Yeah.
And when they started to think for themselves, the hatred they got, maybe I'll send that video to you. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
You know what? I've seen some people come out of those things, and that's encouraging.
Yeah. You know what? It's not the crazy thing is that's not an isolated story. There's so many like that. So, well, hey, I got to run. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, so great to have you. It was fun. It was kind of nice to ad lib this, but man, I'm always here for you, and we can swap guests back and forth. But thanks for your time. I appreciate you and your wife. You're just wonderful people, and
well, thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Shabbat shalom.
Yeah. Shalom.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. Take care.
Right. Bye-bye. Hey guys, I want to take a quick break to tell you about Freedom Talk coffee. This is some amazingly good coffee, and I'm a little biased because Andrea roasts each batch lovingly for you, and you're going to know that our coffee doesn't go to fund woke agendas. You're actually helping support the work that we do with Freedom Talk to restore American values on the foundation of natural rights, to fight for your freedom, to restore our country. So we really appreciate if you subscribe monthly, annually, or even make a one-time purchase. What did you put in this coffee? Coffee plus.